Happy Casual Wine Geek Wednesday.
Oh, I'm so glad I didn't spill.
You did a really good job.
I'm sitting at a wonky angle today, so it's kind of like...
Oh, yeah, you are.
Well, I wanted to be able to see you, but see my notes and, try to be somewhat professional today more so than other days.
Meh.
Hey, friends. That was a lot more...
Welcome to the Casual Wine Geek podcast
pulling
on
ourselves
Wednesday.
together.
Cheers.
We
made it.
I'm coming off a sinus infection. I don't know what's going on.
It's been a we're glad you're here. Happy hump day.
Yeah, we're halfway there.
I figure it's more than halfway there because it's like towards depending on what time you listen to the podcast.
Well, I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
I usually listen. Well, I mean, I drive around all day long, so I'm listening to stuff all the time.
All in the mornings and...
Yeah, I had to take a break from NPR.
You should learn French.
Well, part of the problem is because I do drive all day long,
Yeah.
I just get in I hear the same 7 stories and I can pick out the the rotation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard you already. Kai Rizdal, I love you, but I can only take so much marketplace in one day. I don't care about the Dow. I don't.
Oh, God.
So I was in Walla Walla this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about your trip because I was kind of jealous that you were in Walla Walla.
So friends who don't know, Walla Walla is the far, far southeast corner of Washington State.
Yep.
It's a desert. It's very hot. It's very dry. It's gorgeous.
They have great wine.
We drank a lot of wine.
Tasted through a lot of great places, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I had a sinus infection, so
that's a bummer.
It made life... I was high as balls on Sudafed, which...
And drinking to supercharge it.
I wasn't, no.
No, not
I
supercharged.
was not on a work trip. No, ma'am.
That's true.
No, ma'am.
That's
yeah,
a
so
work
it was
trip.
really hard once it got to be like... we started one day at 11 a.m., and we only went to 3 spots, but at the first spot, it was... I think we had 28 wines.
That's a lot to taste through, especially if you haven't. It's a muscle, especially if you haven't tasted
like that
in a long time.
It was a lot. So do you remember when you and I were working? Maybe you weren't there. One of the wine tasting.
Yeah.
Why words are hard right now.
That's okay. And we were tasting through them to make sure that they were okay to feed to the judges.
This was 5 times that.
That's amazing.
My tongue hurt.
I've had those days.
Just wanted to drink beer, which I did in the parking lot. Don't judge.
Yeah. Speaking of wine tasting, you know that there's Olympics happening.
Oh my gosh, give me all the golds.
Yeah, there is a wine tasting Olympics happening, and anybody can apply. It's happening August 11th at the Marina Del Rey Hotel in California. It's the World Wine Tasting Championships. You have to have a team, I think.
Yeah. So what is...
Did you pull up the website?
Yeah, I've got the website pulled up so that I can just easily get my shit together.
We shared it on our Facebook page, and it's also on our Patreon page.
Yeah, so this is going to be the 6th time this year.
I think it's 6th annual.
Well, this is a direct quote. Is being held for the 6th time this year. Oh, this year it's being held for the 6th time, not the 6th time in this year. Copy editors. Jesus Christ. So this is the 6th annual is how you would actually want to phrase that.
You'd phrase it as your 6th annual.
And this is the 4th time it's happened in the United States is participating.
Uh-huh.
However, in order to participate, the country needs a team. To find a team, a blind tasting competition is being held. So the U.S. is essentially holding open auditions
for tasters.
This
is amazing. I want to do it so bad. You have to do the variety, the label, and you have to call out three different things about the wine. Right?
Yeah, so it's going to be at the Marina Del Rey Hotel in Marina Del Rey, California.
August 11th.
Is teams of 2 will be asked to blind taste 6 whites and 6 reds from around the world.
Yep.
Teams will gain points by identifying the primary grape, country of origin, region of origin, vintage, and producer.
Wow.
This mimics the finals, but halves the number of wines you're tasting.
That's amazing. I want to do it so bad. I'm out of practice. I'd probably...
Winners will eventually represent the red, white, and blue, aka the United States, at this World Wine Tasting Ship, which will be held October 12th at the Chateau Saint Pierre de Serjac in Languedoc, France, in the south.
In October?
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be so pretty.
October 11th. Wait, no.
12th.
Thank you.
August 11th. And
numbers are hard today.
California, and October 12th in France.
Do you know who came in first last year?
Not the U.S.
They would be your people, the Swedes.
Yeah, the Swedish came in.
Britain came in second, and Luxembourg took home the bronze. The home team, France, came in, wait for it, 11th out of 24 teams. Yep. And the U.S. finished in the bottom half of the rankings. So
we have a good shot.
We can really only go up from there.
Yeah. From rock bottom, you can only go up.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
So, I know, wouldn't it be so fun to go?
Yeah.
Like even on a lark, just to try out.
I wonder if we could go and just like hang out.
Probably. Let me look into it.
Can we just
hang out
and just watch? Like, we don't want to compete. We just want to like
maybe
write an article about the experience.
Do a podcast about it.
Oh my God.
Can we taste like, because they open whole bottles for everybody to taste. So somebody's got to proof it. I'd be one of the proofers.
Oh my God. We can just interview people.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay. I'll
make it happen. You know people. You know people in California.
I'll look into it.
You're famous.
Yeah. No, I'm not famous.
Yes, you are.
You're famous. If I'm famous, you're famous.
I was on a TV show once.
See, you're way more famous than I am.
It was when I was like 12. No, that's not true. I was 14. It was in high school. It's a game show.
I love it so
Haven't
much.
I told you that?
Yeah, you did tell me that.
Yeah. Anyway.
It gets lost in the like fun facts about Brandon.
On this work trip, I got to pull out a lot of fun facts about Brandon because I don't hang out with my coworkers very often. It was a lot of like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Your dad lived with what serial killer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I think that's always the most fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because only one other person had heard like any of those stories because I used to be in a different position than I'm in now and we worked together pretty often. And it just was funny how he just sits back and he's like, oh, this is such a good story. Oh shit, that's right. I've told you before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So World Wine Tasting Championships.
In California.
Well, that's just tryouts.
Yeah,
that's auditions.
Yeah, but to go to the tryouts and like interview people and hang out, and that'd still be fun. What made you come and try out? Oh, because I love wine. To Master Soms would be super interesting.
Hey, that's a thing you can put on your resume and you get more money because you know your shit.
Yeah.
I would not do well.
I bet you would do better than you think.
Very likely.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I would do well because I don't taste like that.
Yeah. That's true.
I'm not as into, because I never really wanted to walk the Som route.
Yeah, that's right.
And I have to hold my tongue when people introduce me as a Som, partially because I don't want to be like, no, that's wrong. I don't want to be an asshole. But then I have to gently correct them like, no, I didn't go through the court. I'm not through the guild. I just have a degree from a college.
And you have a podcast, which makes you a professional.
Does it though?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I have temporary tattoos. I've got push pins. I'm legit.
We have business cards. We are totally legit.
Hey, we took ourselves to an international wine festival.
And handed out business cards.
Cheers to that.
Man, we do good work.
Anyway, hi friends.
Guess what we're drinking today?
Oh yeah. Oh no, we have one more housekeeping thing.
Oh, that's right. We have one more housekeeping thing. Well, we have two more housekeeping things. And then we'll get right to the wine.
We're coming up on midterm elections.
We have three more housekeeping things.
Do you want to talk about the other one first, or can we roll right into voting?
Let's go right into voting.
It's written down on your notes in front of you.
We're voting for the favorite wine region. Make sure you're registered.
Oh my God, sweet baby Jesus. Midterm elections are important. Go and vote.
Make sure you register.
So it started today.
Yeah, USA Today just published their annual poll,
right,
for voting for your very favorite wine region.
So the United States is, as of 2016, probably because other places were still in paperwork land with the blessed TTB.
Yeah.
230. The United States has 238 AVAs, or American Viticultural Areas, which is where grapes are grown, that are recognized by the Alcohol Tobacco Tax Trade Bureau, the TTB.
What is an AVA? Like, what's the name of an AVA that you like?
Walla Walla, where I just was.
Where you just were.
Or Yakima, that I drove through. Or the Columbia Valley, that I also drove through.
Yep. And in Oregon, there's Dundee. There's Eola Amity. There's
You guys just
Chehalis
got
Mountains,
Lewis Clark.
That
we share.
The Rocks, which we share.
I drank so much wine from the Rocks this weekend.
Which we share. But there's AVAs all over California, Finger Lakes area. I don't know. All over.
Yeah.
Up and down.
New Mexico.
All across the U.S.
Tejas.
Yeah.
Missouri. New York.
Yeah.
Long Island is its own AVA.
It's crazy.
I don't know.
Anyway, go online, USA Today. They're having a poll. Vote for your very favorite wine region. I don't know if they win anything other than bragging rights, but it's important. Get involved.
There's a whole, you have up until
like the 20th?
Monday, August 20th at noon Eastern Standard Time. We are not Eastern Standard Time.
We are in the Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on Pacific time.
My phone tells me it's Cupertino, which I didn't understand was where Apple is based out of when I first got an iPhone.
Oh, yeah,
I was
California.
like, what the fuck is... I'm trying to find like Pacific time zone. Like, what the fuck is Cupertino? My husband's like, that's where Apple is. Oh.
Oops.
Hey, it's all a learning moment.
Speaking of Eastern Standard Time, I'm rolling right into our final thing.
Ooh.
Final housekeeping.
Plot point the third.
Yeah. We are going to be broadcasts in a local bar, wine shop that we're going to talk about. There is a Casual Wine Geeks podcast hosting location.
Yeah.
Happening.
Which is awesome.
And
weird, but awesome.
Vintage Small Bites and Wine Lounge in Gulfport, Florida. They're going to host a Casual Wine Geeks podcast. What is that called? When they podcast?
I don't know.
Drinking night?
Get together and listen to a thing and drink a thing.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, Wendy, my good friend down there, she opened it up. She's just been open for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to send a whole bunch of merch down there, and we love her, and you should go try it out if you're in the Gulfport area, which is next to Orlando.
Sure.
Like that side of... It's not Miami, where No Name Chinese is. It's the other side of the peninsula.
Oh, okay.
The Gulf side.
Hey, I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, if you're in Florida, Gulfport, go to Vintage Wine Lounge, and you can hear us there too. And all of our merch is going to be over there.
Yeah.
In it to win it.
It's awesome. We like to support the people who support us. It all comes full circle, friends.
So vote, taste all the things, and go to Florida.
I mean, do it in whatever order you see fit, but some of them are on a time crunch, so just be aware.
Because the earth is round.
Hashtag science.
What are we drinking about today?
Okay, so we don't have a kitschy name for this one.
No. We don't have a catchy. We didn't have a catchy name for the last one either.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Sometimes the creative juices aren't flowing because Brandon's high on Sudafed. You don't know. It was a terrible weekend. Oh my God. Mostly because it was mountains and ear popping. And anyway. So today we're going to talk about somewhere that is also mountainous. So this is kind of our South America 2.0 situation. We're kind of talking about Chile and Carmenere today.
Yep. We put off Chile and Carmenere until we had actual Carmenere to drink.
Yeah, because we didn't have any last time. So you brought something that's pretty badass.
Yeah, and you know what? It was quite affordable. I was actually surprised.
I've seen this in a lot of places.
Yeah.
This is actually something that I used to buy at little shop mart up on Capitol Hill, where I used to just buy cheap South American wine.
Well, this is Route 1. It's Carmenere. It's 100% Carmenere, and it's original ungrafted wines. Original ungrafted grapes.
Do you need more?
No,
I'm
just moving your thing.
And then I brought the Los Vascos Grand Reserve Carmenere from 2015. This is an estate that is under the Domaine Baron de Rothschild Lafite umbrella.
Oh, yeah.
So they partnered with these folks to produce this, and it's these I love Carmenere. Well,
because Carmenere is related to Cabernet Franc, and you're a huge fan of Cabernet Franc.
True statement.
I love Cabernet Franc, and I do think that Washington State makes some of the best Cabernet Franc. But
I drank some this weekend.
I would imagine Walla Walla has great grapes over there. So Carmenere and Cabernet Franc, they're related?
Yeah. It's
Are they
more
like cousins?
ish, sort of, kind of, not really.
Oh, okay.
It's Carmenere is like this thing that I feel like has a really interesting history because it was thought to have been lost.
Oh.
It was thought to have gone extinct. It was one of those things in Chile, and we'll going to talk about this in a little bit. That was like, one of the, I feel like one of the most famous like DNA stories of like DNA testing vines and finding out it's something else than you thought it was. So it was
this
thought,
is Carmenere.
yeah, it was thought to have been Merlot for a long time, and then DNA testing came along and they did the whole situation. Carmenere was originally planted in the Medoc region in Bordeaux, where it really it's crazy because it is French for essentially like dark red, like it has to do with like the color of the grapes, and it originated from the French word for crimson, referring to the color of the autumn foliage prior to leaf fall, which is when essentially the vines just drop their leaves. It's also known as a Grand Vieux, which is a historic Bordeaux synonym, although a lot of people in the EU now don't really use those words for something. So along with Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, Carmenere is considered one of the original 6 grapes that were planted in Bordeaux.
Wow. It's like a Granddaddy 6.
Yeah. And so it's also being grown in Italy, in the Eastern Veneto and Friuli region. There's a little bit in California, Walla Walla, and Rockham County, North Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
North Carolina. I would think it would be too humid there, but
yeah, maybe not.
if it's planted somewhere that gets a decent amount of wind, it won't get rot. But
And now they have it in Chile.
So it's not really found in France as much. The largest plantings you find are in Chile, which has more than 8,800 hectares. That was of 2009. And that's in the Central Valley. Chile produces the vast majority of Carmenere wines available today. And as the Chilean industry grows, more experimentation is being done with Carmenere as a blending grape, especially with Cab.
I read this article the other day because we're doing Carmenere, so I try to read articles that give interesting talking points. And I don't remember where I read it, but it showed the movement of Carmenere, from France to Chile.
Oh, yeah, like it tracked it throughout.
And then it showed it going into China. Apparently they're growing it a lot in China right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like it was one of those interesting points of what's happening in the world, right? And yeah, so they're growing it in China.
That's crazy.
I think the same producer from your wine, I'd have to double check it, was from that Chinese wine that we got from Serena at No Name Chinese.
You
Chinese
mean
red?
Like it's under the Rothschild.
Yeah.
The Rothschild Lafite.
Yeah.
Umbrella.
I mean, they might know a thing or two about growing Carmenere.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Right? Like, they kind of do it a little bit.
Yeah. So genetic research has shown that Carmenere is distantly related to Merlot and has a lot of the same appearances, which is why the two were easily mistaken. Together.
Yeah.
Carmenere, being lost and found, has really kind of established itself as sort of the Malbec. Like Malbec is to Argentina as Carmenere is to Chile.
Right.
Carmenere comes from France. Never really kind of got a hold there. I tried to make it with my hands.
Stronghold.
Yeah, but like vines and roots, and it was
grippy.
It was going to be a bad joke. You're all welcome. Is now kind of considered like sort of the national grape of Chile. For a lot of reasons. It's a good food wine. It's a good meat wine. It's got some structure. Distant relative of Merlot. It's blended. It's also cousins to Malbec, which can be finicky in the French climate in Bordeaux a lot. It's got just this... I love Carmenere so much.
I like it because it's got that fruity front to it. It's got a nice high acid. And
if you leave it too long, it can get like a really green bell pepper situation. Yeah. After the phylloxera plague in 1857, which essentially killed most of the grapes in Europe, Carmenere was thought to have gone extinct.
Right. But this wasn't affected by phylloxera.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Oh, really?
Oh, we will.
Oh.
So just as luck would have it, just prior to phylloxera happening and decimating all of Europe, some cuttings of Carmenere happened to get into Chile, where the wine region was just getting started. Did we talk about this last week?
No, we didn't talk about Carmenere
with Argentina.
Mm-mm.
So it was kind of the same situation where grapes are essentially being brought over via boat, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
in a shoe.
Hey,
in a boot.
What you got to do to get through customs, man. The vines were planted all along the valleys in Santiago and around there, because you're at the base of I almost said the Alps, the Andes.
The Andes, yeah.
So you have just constant water all the time, like
down to
really
the ocean.
easy to irrigate. God bless gravity, which is a thing, just like the Earth is round. So I'm never going to let it go.
Hashtag science.
And so like right away, you definitely saw that this grape was going to do well in this climate and with this soil type. And a lot of it had to do with kind of sparse rainfall and hotter days versus in Bordeaux, where it was much more wet all the time. So you've got that like real hefty, what do we call that? A diurnal shift. Hot days, cool nights, mountains help, blocks things.
The drag queen of wine.
Oh, that's right. That was my drag name.
Yeah, diurnal shift. Yeah.
It's terrible. Stay on topic. We're things to talk about.
Yeah, Carmenere, diurnal shift.
So it's sort of from the get-go, Carmenere was definitely blended with Merlot often, but a lot of people sort of started to realize that this would be great in terms of a single varietal wine. The colors are real deep. It's real intense. There's just a little bit of that bitterness. It's not overly tannic.
Yeah. I like it that it's not overly tannic.
And I think it's really good with meat. I think it's a great barbecue wine. I think it's a great roast, like grilled
barbecue, all the things.
Something's got a good char on it. I feel like would be a good idea.
Like peppers with goat cheese in the middle.
Oh God, that sounds so good.
Right? Like the charred green peppers with the goat cheese on the inside would be really good with this. It's got the acid. It has all the things.
Can I have some more of that, please?
Yeah, you can have whatever you want.
Whatever I want.
Your wish is my command.
I want a pony and I want a little flat in Paris. I would like a little...
Can we share the flat?
Oh, of course we can. I want a cute little place in Sirmione at La Garda. I want to have a table reservation at that place in Verona that we love.
Oh, Antica Bodega Del Vino.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So good.
Oh, Verona. Anyway.
Okay.
So did you know...
Tell me.
That a lot of people who study where grapes come from, and I'm not talking about like from Europe to the States and South America. I'm talking about like thousands of years back.
Oh, like genealogists of wine.
Yeah. Ampelographers, I think is what they're called. So people who study stuff like that think that Carmenere actually originated in Spain, but was brought to Italy by the Romans because they were taking over everything, who essentially spread wine throughout Europe.
Right. Which is kind of a fact.
Fluid fact.
Yeah.
Hey, the Phoenicians, a seafaring people, also are thought to have taken wine places.
Yeah, absolutely. The Phoenicians, for sure.
Oh, I just lost my spot.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's totally fine. So they thought that it ended up in Italy, where it was blended with Sangiovese and Tuscany. Because of the Romans moving stuff around, it essentially made its way up into Bordeaux.
Which
after
wouldn't
that,
exist without your people.
Oh, the Dutch. Yes,
the Dutch.
Very true. You're welcome. Or Eleanor of Aquitaine. And that.
But also the Dutch.
Hey, if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much.
I've never heard that before.
Just kidding. I no one is better than anybody else.
That's hilarious.
It's just as funny because it rhymes. So, because of the Romans being able to do everything, it ends up in Bordeaux, where it was really temperamental. It didn't grow very well. It was really susceptible to this fungus odium. You had phylloxera that hit in the 1850s. And so essentially Carmenere goes extinct. After that, people essentially had to just sort of pick up where they left off, and they essentially replanted their favorite ones on American rootstock because Vitis vinifera is susceptible to phylloxera, but Vitis
Lambrusca
or Riparis
or
our history teacher would be murdering us right now if we couldn't remember.
There's only 5, right?
Well, yeah. Anyway,
they're grafted on there.
Yeah, so they're grafted onto American rootstock.
Because phylloxera, the little like weasel fly bugs.
Louse.
Ugh. I was trying not to say that. Can't eat into the hard rootstock of an American rootstock.
Mm-hmm.
It's got thick skin.
Not unlike myself.
Yeah, right.
So after phylloxera, people are trying to get their stuff together. They're trying to figure things out. They're trying to get their favorite things that grow well onto this rootstock that's going to be resistant. Cab Franc, Cab Sauv, Merlot, Petit Verdot, and Malbec were the only ones to get replanted. Carmenere didn't make the list. She didn't make the cut. So people thought it went extinct. A lot of growers were kind of excited about it because they were like, here's this thing that never did well here anyway. People weren't really into taking stuff and trying it out elsewhere. We've already got these things that we know work. Fuck it. 2 of these. Middle fingers. So in the early 1990s, Chile, you've got a lot of French, you've got a lot of Italian, you've got a lot of Spanish immigrants, ending that way, making wine from European cuttings that they're bringing over. They've been getting there for the last 150 years, from the 1850s to then.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Realized that the Merlot around Santiago tasted different than everywhere else. And it's because 50% of what they thought was a Merlot was not a Merlot clone.
It was Carmenere.
Yeah, it ended up being Carmenere. In 1998, officials finally finished a DNA study and the Chilean government recognized the unique grape. And it's kind of weird that winemakers didn't get it together sooner, because Carmenere ripens differently than Merlot. And whereas Merlot is real soft, it's kind of low toned. Carmenere can taste like green bell pepper. Is kind of spicy if it's left too long to ripen.
It tastes like it has a very similar, and I just tasted the Grand Reserva, a very similar taste to a Sauvignon Blanc without the ammonia smell. It's like that green bell pepper, that lemongrass type.
It can be smoky, it can be spicy, it can be earthy. It's darker than Merlot.
Yeah,
heavier than Merlot.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. I feel like if you leave it too long, some people think it'll taste like mothballs, sulfur, green bell pepper. If it's past its prime, so it definitely can go from one to the other if you leave it too long.
Yeah.
For sure. I think. I don't know. What do you think about these wines?
I think they're okay.
I feel like Carmenere is a really good intro grape for people.
Yeah.
It's juicy without being sweet.
It doesn't have too much
like
tannin.
Medium tannin.
It goes great with food because of the acid.
But it's also fine by itself. It doesn't suck all the moisture out of your mouth. It's not real big and structured.
Nope.
It's not heavy.
No, throw it in the fridge for 20 minutes and you can have a red wine with dinner in the summertime. This
one is 14%.
Yeah, mine's 13.5.
I would take this with a little bit of chill.
Right? Little chill, little cheese, like cheddar cheese and crackers.
Like a smoky cheddar?
Mm-hmm.
Or smoked mozz?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. I think I got my bottle for $15.
Yeah, this one I think was 16 or 17.
Yeah. So it's right in you're having people over, you want a red wine, you're going to have a barbecue, you're going to have a little cheese and crackers out. And it's fine.
It's not like, I just feel like cheap Bordeaux is terrible.
Cheap Bordeaux is terrible. Cheap red wine from California is terrible.
And what I like about Carmenere is that it can be on the inexpensive end.
And it's still delicious.
And it's really tasty.
Yeah. I would much rather spend $15 on these Carmeneres than given the alternative.
Well, and especially because you find a lot of Carmenere that's like estate. grown and bottled.
Yeah.
Like, you know that it's not coming off of blending from you don't know where the fuck done with what, you know, like.
Yeah. So Chile is on one side of South America and Argentina is on the other, but the wines that are grown on the separate sides of those mountains, respective mountains, are so different. Like, we tasted the Malbec last week, and it was real big in the mouth. It had a lot of oak treatment. It was, right, it's a bigger wine. It needs a steak.
And its fruit composition is totally different.
Yeah.
Malbec ripens differently than other things.
Yeah.
Its berry bunches look different than other, like, it's just a different creature.
Right. But that's my point, is that not all South American wines are the same.
No.
Right.
That's
There's
like
a
saying
huge climate
all
difference.
American wines are the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you have one set of vines that are facing the Atlantic and you have one set of vines that are facing the Pacific.
Yeah. Yep.
Just by that nature alone, that mountain range essentially cuts the country, I want to say, almost into a fourth of Chile and then 3/4 the rest of South America.
Yep.
I almost said 2/4. That's a half.
Here's like, if somebody is going and looking for a South American wine, you can remember it easy that both Chile and Carmenere start with a C. So if you're looking for a Chilean wine, you're going to be looking for Carmenere, and you can kind of work backwards, right?
Yeah.
Argentina is famous for their steaks. Malbec is great with steak.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, two totally different wines. Both you can get for $15, and both I would take over a $15 California Red, like off-brand red.
Yeah.
Or a $15.
Yeah. Well, and you also
Bordeaux.
have to think about that Chile is a thinner country and it's flatter.
Yeah.
So you don't have the build up to the mountains that you have in Argentina. It is flat and then mountains. So you have a lower altitude and you're closer to the ocean. You get much more of those ocean influences, and the Pacific is much warmer than the Atlantic.
Yeah.
You know, that whole Ring of Fire situation. And it really helps that they're protected from extreme sea weather because of, you know, the low laying coastal mountain range. You've got a lot of snow from the Andes that help provide the vineyards with a lot of water. Irrigation is important. Oh, that's weird. One of the pictures is sideways. You've got the Humboldt Current, which is bringing cold water because it's turned sideways. I have to look at it funny. That's why I look like I have a crick in my neck. So the Humboldt Current brings cold water up the coast from the Antarctic, and then temperatures rarely rise above 90 degrees in the vineyards.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So because of where they are, it's warm. However, they get cooler wind,
like breezes,
coming up from the cold Antarctic. Right. That's the one on the bottom, not the top, because the Earth is a circle, round, inflated like a balloon. There was a lot of political instability. We've moved into facts now.
Oh, is this fun facts?
Yeah, we've moved into facts.
Oh, what?
And I'm trying to loop
all the things
together, because history is not a flat line, and everything is way more connected than you think it is.
Yeah.
A lot.
Everything.
You know, there's a lot of political instability, a lot of social unrest
in Chile.
And a lot of people were kind of upset about how terrible the wine was for a while. Chile wasn't known worldwide as being a really actually wine producing area up until about the 20th century. And a lot of things started to change in the late 80s. So you had a lot of foreign investments starting to pour into Chile, and it started to become known for like really low priced wine, but was also still pretty tasty.
Oh, all right. And then they just had a shipping problem.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
But that's okay.
And so now about 70% of Chilean wine is exported, generally about 500 million in 1990 to 1.5 billion in 2010, with the United States and Great Britain being the two biggest customers.
Currently.
And this article that I'm getting this information is from 2016. So even then, like, and that's the thing is that like all of those numbers have now fluctuated.
Here's the thing with numbers that I love explaining to people. Numbers in any form are just a snapshot of a time, like a particular time and place. It's just a snapshot.
Yeah.
It's not like you can put together patterns. You can kind of, hedge a bet on what's going to happen in the future. But when you're reporting numbers, that number is going to change tomorrow.
Yeah, because that number is a static snapshot of what's happening right now.
Right now. Yeah.
Anyway, fascinating.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so when we were talking about order of things we were going to do stuff in today, I was like, oh, so I have a Grand Reserve from 15, and yours is just a Carmenere.
Yeah.
Does it have a date?
Yeah, 15.
All right, so these came from the same vintage.
Same vintage, same country, same grape.
I didn't know or couldn't remember if there were, like in Europe, specifically Italy, when you say Grand Reserve, like on a Chianti.
Or a Rioja.
Or
right?
a Rioja,
yeah.
It has to do with oak, it has to do with time, it has to do with aging, it has to do with bottle, it has to do with blend percentages, blah, blah, blah,
There's
blah,
like
blah,
restrictions around what.
And I was like, I don't think that Chile has, because we don't. In the States, you call something Grand Reserve, you can call it whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
We don't have laws labeling what constitutes a Grand Reserve for that appellation.
Yeah. I think that's coming, by the way, for the States. Not to divert, but I think that's coming.
Do you think so?
I do, actually. And I think it's going to be in a smaller AVA that has a little bit more political power.
I just wonder how many hoops you have to jump through with the TTB to get something like that approved. Like, you have to be able to prove that that's a thing, because we don't have things like the consortium or the wine syndicate or people making rules for these areas. It's true. One government body making rules for everyone.
For everybody. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, if there is, I'm going to put money on Napa or Sonoma.
Yeah, absolutely.
First.
For sure.
Just in terms of sway. I mean, not that anybody's worried about it right now because of fires from the last couple of years and making sure people have enough juice to make wine out of.
But they have, there's a long established tradition. They have a big tourist industry. They're the fifth largest. California is the fifth largest economy in the world. There's a lot of political capital that sits in those two AVAs.
Yeah, but I just don't think.
I think it's coming, but I don't think it's going to be soon.
You think so? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so, because I feel like it's a lot of tradition going back hundreds of years in Europe with things like vintage champagne, for example. A group gets together and decides that this vintage is acceptable to put on a bottle.
Yeah.
It's oh, for you to be considered this thing, we, the consortium of Brunello di Montalcino, have decided.
I wonder if it's going to start somewhere smaller, like a smaller AVA, like Walla Walla, right? Walla Walla said, all the growers in Walla Walla get together and they say, okay, we're going to do a Reserva and a Grand Reserva, but it's got to be these grapes, and you have to have it in your cellar for this long, and you have to have that. I could see something like that happening.
But you already have places using words like reserve.
Oh, that's true.
Because it doesn't mean bupkis, other than we decided this is better than that. Right, there's no across the board flat hard
syndicate
truth.
Yeah,
for what we can call reserve. It's up to the winery. However, estate is estate. It has to be if you want to use estate, it has to be grown and bottled in the same place.
Yeah, that's true. We do have that.
I think it's grown, bottled, and turned into wine. I think it's also fermented.
So what about Chile? Does Chile have those?
So they have laws very similar to the United States, and that of France's DOC, or the AOC, now that I guess they're changing it to the AOC, that a lot of Europe has based their wine laws on. So Chile's system went into effect in 95 and essentially established boundaries of the country's wine regions and regulations for wine labels. So similar to the States where, you're for example, regulations essentially caused mass rebellion and gave rise to a lot of prominent revolutionists, Theodore Puccio and Antonio Frascala. So while there's no restrictions of grape varietals or viticultural practices, wines are required to have at least 75% of the grape varietal if it's to be consumed in Chile. So if you want to call this Carmenere and you're only selling it in Chile, you have to have at least 75% Carmenere in your bottle.
Right. It's much like the States.
Yes, true. Vintage dated wines are also required to have 75% of the grapes harvested in the named year.
So this is a 2015. It has to have 75%
grapes harvested in 2015, but you can hold over juice from a previous vintage.
I don't know how I feel about that. That's their law.
Them's their rules, man.
All right.
I raise my eyebrow at a lot of things when it comes to wine. If it is to be exported, now here's where it gets different. If it is to be exported, it must contain 85% of the varietal listed on the label, as well as 85% designated of the vintage year. Exported wines also have to meet a minimum ABV percentage, which has to be at a minimum of 12%. That's for whites. Reds have to be at a minimum of 11.5.
Wow.
To list a particular wine region,
okay.
85% is also the minimum required for grapes to be from that region. So Colchagua, which is where this is from, 85% of these grapes had to come from that area.
Mine's from the same area.
So
interesting.
There are several labeling terms also added to further definition of a wine style. The term Reserva Especial has no legal definition or meaning. However, there are aging requirements for wines labeled with other specific terms. For Especial, it has to be 2 years, 4 years for Reserva, and a minimum of 6 years for Grand Vino.
So Grand Reserva means bupkis.
Apparently.
But it looks fancy on the label.
But it's probably because these folks, the Los Vascos folks, do also a Carmenere. It's not a Grand Reserve, so it's probably
like an estate distinction.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It might also have to just do with quality. Like the good stuff went into this bottle, and the A- stuff went into the other bottle.
Right. I'm guessing from the barrel or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe it got different oak treatment. Maybe it got
a different yeast. Maybe it was a better slope or a better block, or
who knows?
You know, it's all. I feel like at the end of the day, it's all up to the winemaker a lot of times.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's like a mad scientist. Yeah.
I mean, both of our wines are from the same year, from the same valley, same grape, and they taste distinctly different.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Distinctly different.
Which is one of the cool things about wine.
It's one of the cool things about wine.
You're one of the cool things about wine.
I think you're one of the cool things about wine.
Oh, stop.
Chilean wine. I think it gets a thumbs up.
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, Chile does so much stuff. Carmenere to me is just kind of one of the things that I think of when I think of Chile. They grow a lot of Merlot. They grow a lot of really delicious white wine. You're starting to see some more stuff, Torrontés and
I pulled out the wine Bible for today's
Sauv Blanc.
episode.
Oh God, it's such a great book.
They had a big list.
Here's a fun fact. Chilean wines have ranked very highly in international competitions. For example, in the Berlin wine tasting in 2004, 36 European experts blind tasted wines from 2 vintages of each of the 8 top wines from France, Italy, and Chile. The first and second place wines were 2 Cabernet-based reds from Chile.
Wow.
The Berlin wine tasting of 2005 held in Brazil. Why are you holding it in Brazil? And it's called anyway. Featured 5 Chilean wines in the top 7. In the Tokyo wine tasting in 2006, wines from Chile won 4 of the top 5 rankings.
Their wines are delicious.
Yeah.
That's what the story is.
Yeah. If you can get your hands on some good Carmenere.
So I pulled up what grapes they grow in Chile. There's a couple in here that I haven't seen.
Such as?
Sauvignon Vert.
That was somewhere in my notes earlier.
Not related to Sauvignon Blanc. It's the same as a Sangiovese and northern Italy. And then for the red, they had a Pia.
Oh, I don't have that one listed on mine.
Major grape PAIS is Chile's historic mass production grape brought in the 16th century from Spain. So it's Spanish. PAIS. How would you pronounce that?
Pie?
Pie? You don't pronounce the consonant?
I don't think so. I feel like I've seen that. Are there 2 dots above the I?
1 /.
Then maybe I'm thinking of a different thing.
Yeah.
I don't know stuff.
Anyway, in Spain, it's still widely planted for use in jug wines. And then they grow Pinot Noir, Syrah, Merlot, Carmenere, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, this list that I've got says Merlot, Carmenere, Zin, Petit Syrah, Cab Franc, Pinot Noir, Syrah, Sangiovese, Barbera, Malbec, Carignan. I bet those don't get exported that much.
No,
White wine varietals include Chard, Sauv Blanc, Sauvignon Vert, Semillon, Riesling, Viognier, Torrontel, Pedro Jimenez, Gewürztraminer, and Muscat of Alexandria.
I would imagine that yours is newer. Your
Well, it's
article is newer.
Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
Crowdsourced information. You can't always trust it. Am I wrong?
No, not wrong.
I know.
Carmenere. I like it.
Yeah, there we go. So that's today.
Happy Carmenere Day.
Where in the world is Carmenere San Diego? Carmenere Santiago? I just came up with the title.
Where in the world is
Carmenere Santiago?
Okay. All right. There it is.
Oh, God. Moments of brilliance, friends. It happens sometimes.
Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Always take 2 bottles.
We love you.
Ciao.
Bye.